The year was 2178, and humanity had reached unprecedented heights, or so everyone kept saying. Cities stretched endlessly into the sky, powered by energy harvested from distant stars. Artificial intelligence governed nearly every aspect of daily life, ensuring efficiency and precision. People lived longer than ever before thanks to medical advancements, but something felt off. Beneath the gleaming skyscrapers and holographic billboards, there was a quiet unease, a sense that despite all the progress, people weren't truly happy. Kira sat at her desk inside a sleek glass office on the 450th floor of New Dawn Tower. Her neural implant buzzed incessantly with notifications, work deadlines, social media updates, health metrics flashing red. It was overwhelming. Every second mattered now. Every decision was tracked and analyzed. Even breathing seemed like part of some grand algorithm designed to maximize productivity. Her eyes darted across the glowing screen embedded in her desk. "You're falling behind," read one notification. Another warned, "Your stress levels are above average. Consider meditation therapy." Kara sighed, rubbing her temples. Meditation therapy? She barely had time to eat, let alone sit still and breathe deeply. Life wasn't about slowing down anymore. It was about keeping up. But today, Kira decided to do something different, something drastic. She logged off her workstation, deactivated her work profile, and booked a trip to a place few dared to visit, the Quiet Zone. The Quiet Zone wasn't advertised on any official channels. It didn't appear on maps or in travel guides. You had to hear about it through whispers, people who spoke of a hidden sanctuary where technology couldn't reach. No neural implants, no AI assistants, no constant stream of data flooding your mind. Just silence. Pure, unfiltered silence. When Kira arrived, she stepped out of the hovercab onto soft grass, not synthetic turf, but actual dirt beneath her feet. The air smelled fresh, almost too fresh, as if her lungs weren't used to it anymore. A young man greeted her warmly. His name badge read Elder Zane, though he looked younger than his title suggested. He wore simple clothes made from natural fibers, and his face carried none of the tension Kira saw in the city dwellers. "Welcome to the Quiet Zone," Zane said, gesturing toward a winding path lined with trees. "Follow me." Kira hesitated for a moment before following him. As they walked, she noticed how quiet everything was. No hum of machinery, no chirping of virtual birds, just the sound of leaves rustling in the breeze and the occasional bird call overhead. It was unsettling at first, like being unplugged from reality itself. They reached a small clearing where a bench stood beneath a towering oak tree. Zane motioned for her to sit. "So," he began, sitting beside her, "what brings you here?" Kira fidgeted nervously. I needed a break from everything." Zane nodded knowingly. "From the noise, you mean?" She glanced at him, surprised. "How did you know?" He smiled softly. "Everyone who comes here says the same thing. They're tired of the overload, the endless notifications, the pressure to perform, the feeling that they'll never measure up." Kara stared at the ground, her chest tightening. How could he understand so easily? Was she really that transparent? "I just feel like I'm failing," she admitted finally. "At work, at relationships, at life. Everyone expects so much from me, and I can't keep up." Zane leaned back against the bench, gazing up at the sky. "Let me tell you something, Kyra. You're not failing. You're human. And humans aren't meant to be perfect." Her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" He turned to face her, his expression thoughtful. "Think about it. We've built a world obsessed with perfection, machines that never make mistakes, algorithms that predict outcomes with near certainty. But humans, we're messy, flawed, unpredictable, and that's okay." Hera shook her head. "But isn't perfection better? Isn't it easier to live this way?" Zane chuckled softly. "Easier, maybe. But easier doesn't always mean happier. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you did something without worrying about getting it right?" She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. The truth was, she couldn't remember. Everything she did, every task, every interaction, was filtered through the lens of performance metrics and approval ratings. If it wasn't perfect, it wasn't worth doing. "That's the problem," Zane said gently. "We become so focused on achieving perfection that we've forgotten how to enjoy the process, to learn from our mistakes, to grow." His words hit Kira like a punch to the gut. She thought about all the times she'd avoided taking risks because she feared failure. All the moments she'd spent editing and re-editing projects until they were technically flawless but emotionally hollow. Had she been missing out on life without even realizing it? "What should I do?" she asked quietly. Zane placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Start small. Stop obsessing over every detail. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Trust me, Kara. You'll find that imperfection is what makes life interesting." As the day went on, Kira explored more of the Quiet Zone. She wandered through gardens filled with real flowers, their petals soft and fragrant. She listened to the wind rustling through the trees, the sound raw and untamed compared to the simulated breezes she was used to. For the first time in years, she felt present. But breaking free from old habits wasn't easy. Several times, her neural implant buzzed insistently, demanding attention. Notifications flooded her mind, urging her to check emails, update her status, review her performance stats. Each time, she resisted, focusing instead on the world around her. By evening, Kara returned to the clearing where she'd met Zane earlier. He was there, sitting cross-legged on the grass, staring up at the stars. Real stars, not holograms. "How are you feeling?" he asked as she approached. "Different," she admitted. "Lighter somehow." He smiled. "That's good. It means you're starting to see things clearly." Kara sat beside him, looking up at the night sky. The stars twinkled faintly, distant yet comforting. "Why does it feel so hard to let go?" she asked after a while. "Because letting go requires trust," Zane replied. "Trust in yourself, in others, in the universe. It's scary, I know, but once you embrace imperfection, you'll realize it's not something to fear. It's something to celebrate." His words stayed with her long after she left the quiet zone. On the ride back to the city, Kara deactivated her neural implant notifications entirely. For the first time, she allowed herself to exist without needing proof of it. And somewhere in the quiet stillness of the quiet zone, Kara began to understand that life wasn't about being perfect, it was about being human. The next morning, Kara woke up feeling lighter than she had in years. The absence of constant notifications was both unsettling and liberating. For the first time, her mind wasn't cluttered with endless reminders and updates. Instead, there was silence, a rare commodity in the hyper-connected megacity of New Dawn. Determined to continue her exploration, Kara returned to the quiet zone. Today, she was scheduled to meet Dr. Leora, a former AI developer turned philosopher. Kira had read about her before coming here, how she had walked away from a lucrative career designing predictive algorithms that shaped nearly every aspect of modern life. What intrigued Kira most was why someone so deeply embedded in technology would choose to abandon it entirely. When Kira arrived at the designated meeting spot, a small wooden cabin nestled among towering pines, she found Dr. Leora seated on a porch swing, sipping tea made from wild herbs. Her appearance was strikingly simple: loose linen clothing, no visible implants or tech accessories, and an aura of calmness that seemed almost otherworldly. "Good morning," Dr. Leora greeted her warmly, setting down her cup. "You must be Kara." Kara nodded, taking a seat across from her. "Thank you for agreeing to speak with me. I understand you played a key role in developing predictive systems, but now you rejected them." Dr. Leora chuckled softly. "Rejected might be too strong a word. I simply realized they weren't serving humanity the way I'd hoped." She leaned back, gazing out at the forest. "Let me explain. When we first introduced predictive algorithms, everyone thought it was revolutionary. Imagine being able to anticipate outcomes, whether it's choosing the right career path, finding the perfect partner, or avoiding accidents altogether. It sounded like utopia, didn't it?" Kara nodded eagerly. "It does sound amazing, being able to plan everything perfectly. Isn't that better than leaving things to chance?" Dr. Laura sighed, her expression thoughtful. "At first, yes. But over time, I started noticing something troubling. People stopped living spontaneously because they were too busy following predictions. They became afraid to deviate from the paths laid out for them, terrified of making wrong choices." Her voice softened. "Do you see what I'm saying? Predictability gave people security, but it also robbed them of freedom, the freedom to explore, to fail, to grow." Kara frowned, trying to process her words. "But isn't it safer this way, knowing what's going to happen ahead of time?" Dr. Leora shook her head gently. "That's the illusion of control, Kara. No algorithm can account for every variable. Life is inherently unpredictable, and that unpredictability is what makes it beautiful. When we try to control everything, we miss out on the magic of unexpected moments." She paused, looking directly at Kara. "Think about it. Some of your best memories, were they planned, or did they happen spontaneously?" Kara hesitated, recalling flashes of laughter shared with friends during unplanned adventures, moments of serendipity that couldn't have been scripted. They just happened," she admitted. "Exactly," Dr. Leora said with a smile. "Those are the moments that stick with us because they're real, authentic, and they remind us that life isn't meant to be controlled, it's meant to be experienced." Before Kira could respond, her neural implant buzzed faintly, a reminder that she hadn't fully deactivated it. An alert popped into her mind. Upcoming meeting scheduled. Confirm attendance. She flinched, startled by the intrusion. Predictive algorithms were already dictating her next move. Dr. Leora noticed her reaction and raised an eyebrow. "Still struggling to let go, I see." Kyra sighed, rubbing her temples. It's hard. Everything I do feels like it needs to be optimized, scheduled, accounted for. How do you live without worrying about losing control? Dr. Laura smiled knowingly, by embracing uncertainty, trusting that even if things don't go according to plan, you'll find a way forward. Here's my lesson for you. Stop worrying about controlling the future. It's unpredictable, and that's what makes it beautiful. Her words resonated deeply with Kyra. She thought about all the times she'd avoided risks because she feared failure, all the opportunities she passed up because they didn't align with her predicted trajectory. Had she been missing out on life by clinging too tightly to control? What should I do? Kara asked finally. Dr. Leora gestured toward the forest. Start small. Step outside your comfort zone. Take a walk without checking the weather forecast. Have a conversation without planning what you're going to say. Allow yourself to be surprised. Kara hesitated, then nodded. Okay, I'll try. Later that afternoon, Kira decided to take Dr. Leora's advice literally. She ventured into the woods surrounding the quiet zone, leaving behind her usual reliance on maps and schedules. At first, the lack of direction felt disorienting. Every step seemed uncertain, every turn unfamiliar. But as she wandered deeper into the forest, she began to notice details she never paid attention to before. The texture of tree bark, the scent of pine needles underfoot, the rhythmic chirping of birds overhead. Then, something unexpected happened. As she rounded a bend in the trail, she stumbled upon a clearing where two children were playing with handmade toys. Their laughter echoed through the trees, pure and unfiltered. One of them looked up and waved at Kyra. Hi, the child called out cheerfully. Kyra froze for a moment, unsure how to respond. Then, smiling despite herself, she waved back. For the first time in ages, she felt truly present. Not analyzing, not optimizing, just existing in the moment. As she made her way back to the quiet zone later that evening, Kyra realized something profound. The unpredictability that once frightened her was actually a gift. It allowed for spontaneity, for connection, for growth. By letting go of the need to control every detail, she had opened herself up to experiences she never could have planned. And somewhere in the quiet stillness of the forest, Kyra began to understand that life wasn't about holding on to certainty. It was about embracing the unknown. The third day at the quiet zone began with a sense of anticipation. Kyra had spent the previous evening reflecting on Dr. Leora's words about embracing uncertainty. Stepping outside her usual routines felt liberating, yet unsettling. She realized just how much of her life had been dictated by plans and predictions, goals set not by her own desires, but by external expectations. Today's interviewee was Mira, a retired astronaut who had once been celebrated as one of humanity's greatest explorers. After decades of traveling to distant planets and leading groundbreaking missions, Mira had walked away from fame and fortune to live a quiet life among the stars, at least metaphorically. She now resided in the quiet zone, tending to a small observatory where she studied constellations visible only to the naked eye. When Kira arrived at the observatory, she found Mira seated on a wooden bench, gazing up at the night sky through an open dome. The air smelled faintly of wood smoke, mingling with the crispness of the evening breeze. Mira turned as Kira approached, her face lighting up with a warm smile. You must be Kyra, Mira said, extending a hand. Come, sit with me. Kyra nodded, taking a seat beside her. The view above was breathtaking, countless stars scattered across the velvet expanse, untainted by city lights or holographic projections. For a moment, Kara forgot why she was there, mesmerized by the sheer vastness of the universe. So, Mira began, her voice soft but steady. What brings you here? Kyra hesitated, searching for the right words. I'm trying to understand what success really means. Everyone around me seemed... After saying goodbye to Mira, Kira wandered back to the clearing where she first met Elder Zane. The stars overhead seemed brighter tonight, their twinkling patterns casting a serene glow over the landscape. She sat on the bench, pulling out her neural implant interface. Notifications awaited her, work deadlines, unread messages, reminders of upcoming events, but she resisted the urge to check them. Instead, she opened a blank document and began typing. Not an article, not a report, but a letter to herself. Dear Kyra, she wrote, stop chasing what everyone else says is important. Focus on what makes you feel alive. Spend time with people who matter. Explore places that inspire you. Create moments worth remembering. As she wrote, tears welled up in her eyes. For years, she'd been living someone else's dream, a script written by societal pressures and algorithmic recommendations. Now, for the first time, she dared to imagine a different path, one filled with genuine connection, meaningful experiences, and inner peace. When she finished writing, Hera saved the document and deactivated her neural implant entirely. No more notifications, no more distractions, just silence, and the promise of a new beginning. That night, As Kira lay on a bed of grass beneath the stars, she allowed herself to dream, not of accolades or achievements, but of adventures yet to come, of laughter shared with loved ones, of sunsets watched without filters or screens. And somewhere in the quiet stillness of the quiet zone, Kara began to understand that success wasn't about reaching destinations. It was about savoring the journey. The fourth day at the quiet zone dawned with a sense of quiet reflection. Kyra had spent the previous nights gazing at the stars, her mind slowly untangling itself from the web of societal expectations and technological dependencies. She was beginning to understand that life wasn't about holding on to things forever. It was about appreciating the fleeting beauty of each moment. Today's guide was Theo, a historian who had dedicated his life to documenting Earth's lost ecosystems. Unlike the other residents of the Quiet Zone, Theo rarely stayed in one place for long. He traveled across the globe, collecting fragments of a disappearing world, seeds from extinct plants, recordings of forgotten bird songs, photographs of landscapes swallowed by rising seas. His work was both a tribute and a warning, a reminder of what humanity stood to lose if it continued down its current path. When Kira arrived at Theo's workshop, a rustic cabin filled with shelves of jars, books, and artifacts, he was bent over a table, carefully sketching the delicate petals of a dried flower. The air smelled faintly of earth and parchment, a comforting contrast to the sterile environments Kara was used to. "You're here," Theo said without looking up, his voice calm and measured. "Come in." Kara stepped inside, marveling at the collection around her. Each item seemed to carry a story, a whisper of a world that once was. She felt a pang of sadness, realizing how much had been lost in the pursuit of progress. "Thank you for agreeing to speak with me," Kira said softly. "I understand you've spent years preserving pieces of Earth's past. Why is that important to you?" Theo set down his pencil and turned to face her, his expression thoughtful. "Because forgetting is dangerous, Kyra. When we lose touch with where we came from, we risk repeating the same mistakes. But more than that, these fragments remind us of something essential. Nothing lasts forever." He gestured to the jar containing the dried flower. "This plant doesn't exist anymore. Its habitat was destroyed decades ago. Yet it still holds value, not because it can be revived, but because it teaches us about resilience, adaptation, and the inevitability of change." Kyra frowned, trying to process his words. "But isn't it better to preserve everything, to keep memories alive forever?" Theo shook his head gently. "Preservation has its place, yes, but clinging to permanence denies us the gift of impermanence, the understanding that life's beauty lies in its transience. Think about it, Kyra. A sunset is breathtaking precisely because it fades. A flower blooms brilliantly before wilting. Even relationships evolve over time, shaped by moments that come and go." His voice softened. "When we try to hold on to everything, we miss the joy of experiencing it fully. We become so focused on capturing or controlling that we forget to simply live." Kara shifted uncomfortably, thinking about all the ways she tried to freeze moments in time. Photos stored in digital archives, achievements recorded in neural implants. Had she been missing out on the essence of those experiences by obsessing over preserving them? "What should I do?" she asked finally. Theo smiled knowingly. "Let go. Stop worrying about holding on to things forever. Focus on being present for the moments that matter. Here's my lesson for you. Life's too short to waste on permanence. True fulfillment comes from embracing impermanence." His words resonated deeply with Kyra. She thought about the endless stream of notifications flooding her mind, urging her to document every detail of her life. All those reminders to update profiles, save memories, optimize outcomes. They were distractions from the raw, unfiltered reality of existence. "What does letting go look like?" Kara asked cautiously. Theo picked up the jar with the dried flower and held it up to the light. "It means accepting that some things can't be saved, that loss is a natural part of life, and that every ending makes room for new beginnings." He paused, studying Kyra's face. "Start small. Delete old files you no longer need. Unfollow accounts that don't inspire you. Spend less time curating your digital footprint and more time creating real connections. Trust me, Kara, you'll find freedom and release." Later that afternoon, Kira decided to take Theo's advice literally. She returned to her quarters at the Quiet Zone and accessed her neural implant interface for the first time in days. Notifications flooded her screen, work updates, social media alerts, archived memories. But instead of scrolling through them, she began deleting. Photos of staged smiles, messages from acquaintances she barely remembered, articles she'd saved but never read. All of it disappeared with a few taps. At first, that act of erasing felt terrifying, as if she were losing parts of herself. But as the clutter vanished, a strange sense of relief washed over her. She opened her journal and wrote a single sentence. "Letting go feels like breathing again." That evening, Hira joined Theo in the garden, where he was planting seeds salvaged from his travels. The soil smelled rich and fertile, a stark contrast to the synthetic surfaces she was used to. As she watched him work, she realized how much effort went into nurturing even the smallest forms of life. Why bother planting these if they might not survive? Kyra asked, gesturing to the tiny sprouts poking through the dirt. Theo chuckled softly. Because hope is worth the effort. Not every seed will grow, but the ones that do remind us why we started in the first place. Kyra nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. For the first time, she understood that life wasn't about clinging to permanence. It was about finding meaning in the ephemeral. And somewhere in the quiet stillness of the quiet zone, Kyra began to embrace the beauty of letting go. On the fifth and final day at the quiet zone, Kyra woke up feeling lighter than she had in years. The air smelled fresher, the sunlight warmer, and the silence sweeter. She stepped outside her cabin, taking a deep breath as the cool morning breeze brushed against her face. For the first time, she felt truly alive, not just existing, but thriving. As she walked through the gardens, she reflected on everything she'd learned during her stay. Elder Zane had taught her to stop worrying about perfection and embrace her humanity. Dr. Leora had shown her the beauty of uncertainty and the importance of letting go of control. Mira had redefined success for her, emphasizing fulfillment over accolades. And Theo had reminded her that life's fleeting moments are what make it precious. Each lesson had chipped away at the walls she built around herself, the walls of perfectionism, control, materialism, and permanence. Now, standing beneath the open sky, Kyra realized those walls were gone. In their place stood a foundation of clarity, resilience, and purpose. Her final meeting was with Elder Zane again, who had welcomed her on her first day. He sat in the same clearing where they'd met, beneath the towering oak tree. When he saw Kyra approaching, his eyes lit up with warmth. "So," he said, gesturing for her to sit beside him, "what have you learned?" Kyra hesitated for a moment, then smiled softly. "That life's too short to waste on things that don't matter." Zane nodded approvingly. "And what matters most?" She thought carefully before answering, living fully in the present, loving deeply, embracing imperfection, uncertainty, and change, focusing on experiences over achievements, connection over status, and presence over preservation. Zane chuckled softly, leaning back against the bench. "Well said, Kyra. You've come a long way in just a few days." "I couldn't have done it without everyone here," Kyra admitted. "You've all given me something I didn't know I needed, a new way of seeing the world." Zane placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch reassuring. "Remember this. Life isn't about avoiding pain or chasing perfection. It's about finding joy in the messiness, meaning in the chaos, and peace in the unknown. Keep these lessons close to your heart, no matter where you go." Kyra nodded, feeling tears well up in her eyes. She knew leaving the quiet zone wouldn't be easy. Returning to the city meant facing the noise, the pressure, the endless distractions she'd worked so hard to escape. But now, armed with wisdom and perspective, she felt ready to navigate it differently. Later that afternoon, Kyra packed her belongings and prepared to leave. Before stepping into the hovercab, she turned back to take one last look at the quiet zone. The trees swayed gently in the breeze, the flowers bloomed brightly under the sun, and the residents moved with calmness and purpose. It was a place unlike any other, a sanctuary of simplicity in an increasingly complex world. As the cab ascended into the sky, Kyra opened her journal and began writing, not for herself this time, but for others. She titled the piece, "Stop Worrying About These Three Things. Life's Too Short." The article poured out of her effortlessly, each word infused with passion and conviction. She wrote about Elder Zane's lesson on imperfection, Dr. Leora's insights on uncertainty, Mira's wisdom on redefining success, and Theo's reflections on impermanence. She shared how these teachings had transformed her life, urging readers to let go of societal pressures and focus on what truly mattered.